when will that day be mine? When will you give me your blessings, erase all of my offenses, and give my heart a taste for chanting the holy name in purity? When will I taste the essence of the holy name, feeling myself to be lower than the grass, my heart filled with tolerance? Yeah, thank you. When will I give respect to all others and be free from desire for respect from them? When will I cry out that I have no longer any desire for wealth and followers, poetry, and beautiful women, all of which are meant just for bodily pleasure? O Gaura Hari, give me causeless devotional service unto your lotus feet, birth after birth. When will my body be covered with goosebumps and my voice broken with emotion as I pronounce Krishna's name? When will my body change color and my eyes flow with endless tears as I chant? When will I give up all thought of the world and society and run like a madman along the banks of the Ganges in Navadvip, singing and dancing and sincerely calling out the names of Gaura and Nityananda? When will Nityananda Prabhu be merciful to me and deliver me from the enchantment of sense objects? When will he give me the shade of his lotus feet and the right to enter the marketplace of the holy name? When will I buy, borrow, or steal the ecstasy of the holy name? When will I lose myself in the intoxication of the holy name? When will I immerse myself in the nectar of the holy name after grasping the feet of a saint who constantly relishes the flavors of devotion? Yeah, we need the next page. And he's in charge of the Jagannath temple, not a small operation. And yet he has time to write hundreds of songs of this caliber, which means his mind is on this all the time. There's no other way. And this is just entry-level Krishna consciousness. This is a song that's suitable for us, those of us who are just struggling to be any kind of sadhaka, what to speak of a siddha. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a great example to all of us, and in this song in particular, he's hankering, as we should be. The song is actually meant really not so much as an expression of his heart, but as an instruction to us, what should be our attitude towards Krishna consciousness. So, if you've noticed, he's emphasizing two or three things in this song. Number one is this absolute humility, dainya. In the Sri Brihad Bhagavatamritam of Srila Sanatana Goswami, he makes a very piquant statement there, very striking statement, which is that pure love of Godhead, prema, is exactly one and the same thing as absolute, unconditional dainya, humility. And dainya doesn't mean you think yourself the lowest, or that you are the lowest, but it means this humility, which he's expressing in this song, of just being a servant of Hari. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, he's paraphrasing also in later verses of this song. He's telling us what are the symptoms of that real humility. Sometimes people have a kind of a false humility. They're very meek and they're very obsequious and not trying to put themselves forward, but inside they're cherishing a different ideal. That's most of us, actually. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is qualifying what are the symptoms of that real humility. And aside from feeling yourself lower than the blade of grass. What's lower than the grass? What's below the grass? Nobody has a clue? The dirt. And even below the dirt, potato. Somebody was saying this. Who was saying this? I think it was Gauranga Darshan or somebody. Potato is below the dirt also. Think about it. To be lower than the straw in the street, it's like being aloo. Every time I go to South India, I especially go to Kerala and southwest side, Tiruchendur, other places. So my wife comes back and she's looking like a potato. So much appam and payasam and but that's not how we want to become like potatoes. We want to become lower than the straw in the street. Potato is under the ground. It's below the ground even. We think the dust, you can't get any lower than ground, right? Bhutala. But you can. And alu, even when you pull it out of the ground and elevate it, what is alu doing? It's being cut up for your sabzi. No complaints. And digested and coming out as you know what. So, you know, this is what it means. You cannot be more humble than a blade of grass without also being more tolerant than a tree. That's the point. Tolerant doesn't mean that you empower an abuser or that you enable, unsanguine behavior, non-beneficial behavior in other persons. Not necessarily. But it does mean that in fulfilling the order of your spiritual master, you're ready to tolerate whatever the world has to throw at you. And what does the world have to throw at you? William Shakespeare said, whether it is better to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous misfortune. Anybody who's ever been in Sari Sati, you already know about this. Or Shani Dasha. The world can be so cruel upon us. But in fulfilling the orders of the spiritual master and in trying to further the mission of the spiritual master, you have to suffer so many reverses, so much opposition, so much antagonism even. You all should know the story, Juhu, how much Prabhupada had to tolerate, how much abuse was thrown at him from multiple angles. This is what he's talking about. So to be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. In Los Angeles, I always like to say there's, outside of the Los Angeles temple, there's a big magnolia tree. And every so often the municipal truck comes by and they have a crane attached to that truck and a man with a saw. And he trims those trees so that they don't fall and hurt people. But I was looking at this tree one day and I counted, there were 32 scars of where this tree has donated one of its limbs to the city of Los Angeles. 32 times this tree has lost a limb. Anyone here ever lost a limb? You don't have to answer. But this is the kind of tolerance that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had in mind. People come and carve their initials. Dilip loves Sneha. Forever. Until something goes wrong, which it always does. So, the tree has to tolerate so much, and still giving at the same time, just as Krishna told Balaram, see the character of these trees here in Vrindavan? Here in Vrindavan, all these trees are not only so tolerant, but they're kalpavrikshas. While you're here, take advantage of these trees, not by cutting them down, but by praying to them, because they're all kalpavriksha trees. 3 things in this dham will fulfill all of your desires. What are they? They're all mentioned in the first verse of Brahma's prayers in Brahma Samhita. Chintamani prakara sadma. If you live in Vrindavan, your house is made out of touchstone, and every grain of dust in this place can fulfill all of your desires, and therefore they should be spiritual. Don't pray for a new BMW here in Vrindavan. There are better things to do with your limited time here. And outside of those houses, my house, there's a champa kalpavriksha outside of my house here in Vrindavan. Kalpavriksha lakshavriteshu. Lakhs and lakhs and lakhs of kalpavrikshas, desire-fulfilling trees, wish-fulfilling trees. They can give you anything you want. I know this from experience. That was one of the topics tonight. What's your experience in Krishna consciousness? I'll tell you. I wanted to move to Vrindavan, so I served as many cows as I could find here, as many Brajavasis as I could find here. I smeared the dust on my body. I went to each and every tree that I could find and begged for residence in Vrindavan. As, of course, also Srimati Radharani, she's ultimate authority here. Yatra adhipatyam vrishabhanus putrya yenoti ye prema sukham jananam yasmin mama shabalabatyatosmin mamastu vrindavana eva vasaha. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur prayed like this. What is he talking about? That place where the supreme ruling queen is Srimati Radharani, where the people who live there just have spontaneous, natural love of Godhead, which they don't even have to cultivate, and wherein my own strong desire resides. May that Vrindavan Dham be my only place of residence. This is what he prays. So these desire trees, they fulfilled that desire for me, at least for the time being. Agar Srimati Radharani ki kripa rahegi, we're hearing the holy Dham, Shahid, and so that's kalpavriksha, lakhs and lakhs and lakhs of them. And then, of course, Surabhir Adipaliyantam. This is how Krishna engages all day long. According to the Shruti mantra, Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Natasya karyam karanam shavidyate. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no karya. What does karya mean? Karya, kaj. It means something that your obligation, no task that you have to perform. So what does he do all day long? He does nothing except reciprocate with his devotees in love. And these cows are very prominent among his devotees. That's why he has names like Govinda, Gopada, Gopinatha, ityadi. So the dust of Vrindavan, the trees of Vrindavan, the cows of Vrindavan, they can all fulfill your desires, any desires. So you have to be careful not to shortchange yourself and ask for something temporary from someone who can give you something eternal. If you want eternal happiness and you settle for your BMW instead, or your whatever position you're seeking in your company, or whatever, so many things we ask for, you know what they are. So the real thing is to grab hold of the opportunity of human form of life while you can. Jaise ek madhyayugin kavi ne kaha ki jab laga tan mein tapana vyapay tab laga kari hari seva. Madhavadas Jagannathi, obscure Brajbhasha poet, said like this: while your body is in good working order, you don't have cancer yet, you haven't gone crazy yet. Mumbai, you're mostly all from Mumbai. Mumbai is like the Los Angeles of India. Really, if you think about it, the similarities are too strong. I know this because I'm a native of Los Angeles. And, the movie industry is there, the ocean is there, West Coast is also there, and sense gratification in maximum degree. So, you all have to be careful about that. Desire the right things while you have a short opportunity to become Krishna conscious, and you will. Lo and behold, it does work, this process, if you just sincerely take advantage of it. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is praying for the humility to be more humble than a blade of grass, to be more tolerant than a tree, and what else? To offer all respects to others. Well, first of all, to not expect any respect. Amani manada. These are two things. Sometimes we offer respect to others. That's not so difficult. But to not expect any honor, that's very difficult. Very difficult. So these are the four things that really test. How humble are you really? Have you come up to the mark in terms of real humility, the kind of humility that is non-different from love of Godhead. Once you have this kind of humility, you're already elevated to love of Godhead. It's automatic. To the degree that you're not elevated to pure Krishna prema, it's because you don't have some of these four things. It's a very, very scientific and very essential understanding. So that's why he's emphasizing. And how do we get that humility? He's also emphasizing a little less in this song, but he's hoping that one day he will be able to chant the holy name of Amara Radha Bhuchi, Harinam Ruchi, Kripa Bole Hobe, Hridoy Sanchar. If there's no change in the heart, then what is the point of doing so many upacharas and puja and so many japa tapa, so many things that we may do? The heart has to change, and that the heart will change when we chant with great attention. What kind of great attention? You heard what he said. Such a does that happen to any of us? Maybe, I don't know. Possible. But if you're not experiencing what Narottam Das Thakur experienced, then there's a problem. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, taking the part of one of us, because he really isn't, but he's playing that role. We're all playing roles in this world, not just Krishna. If you're a devotee of Krishna, you also have to play roles, just like Krishna does. Nato naryataro yatha, just like an actor on a stage. Sometimes the pure devotees, they do like this. They act as if they're just ordinary conditioned souls, but we know very well from their preaching and from their character where they stand, or we should. The more we become more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than the tree, more ready to offer respects to all others without expecting any honor in return, that much we can actually recognize who is a pure devotee and who isn't. Just like I heard Srila Prabhupada say, once you become a bona fide disciple, then you're automatically thereby a bona fide guru. But if you're trying to become a bona fide guru, otherwise, good luck. It's going to take you a while. And you will rack up some karma along the way, because you'll be misleading people, and there's karma involved in that. Ambitious neophytes who don't have really this full humility, very dangerous species in this world. So anyway, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is praying for these things, and let me develop a taste for the holy name by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, how fortunate are we that we even know this Mahamantra? Think of how many people are in the world and have never even heard of this mantra. If you live in a place like Afghanistan or North Korea or so many, Iceland maybe, there's so many places people don't have this wisdom. If you've taken birth in India, that means you've already come so far. Think about it. Janmasa durlabhamidam bahusam bhavante. This human form of life is rare enough. You've come through 8,400,000 other species to get to be a human being. But among the human beings, to take birth in Bharatvarsha, that's another special opportunity which not everybody gets. You could have taken birth in Vladivostok or other such places. So to even know this Mahamantra is such a great distinction, it's a great benediction, and we should have gratitude. Anyone here is a disciple of Radhanath Swami, you don't have to raise your hands, but he often talks about this quality of gratitude. It's such a valuable thing to really appreciate what it is that we've been given. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to talk too much about Guru Vandana, but there's a reason Prabhupada asked us to chant that prayer every day, because it's so full of meaning that, even such a person as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes a Sanskrit commentary to explain. So chanting Hare Krishna in great humility, and it doesn't stop there. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about the austerity of knowledge. Any of the brahmacharis know this verse? Austerity of knowledge. Because I'm only asking brahmacharis because they're the ones who memorize all the verses. Actually, all of us should be doing that. But what about 4th chapter, text number 10? Vita raga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashritaha Bahubo jnanatapasa puta madbhavamagataha. Krishna says, those who have approached me in bhava bhakti, it's the people who have become purified by the austerity of knowledge. And the symptoms of that are that they're no longer at the whims of attachment, fear, and anger. So what is that austerity of knowledge? The austerity of knowledge is that first of all you have to acquire it. According to Baladev Vidyabhushan. You have to actually open the book and read it. Bhagavad Gita as it is, how many of you can raise your hands now? Have you read Bhagavad Gita as it is? Have you seen it? Do you have one? Raise your hands, please. Yes. So Bhagavad Gita as it is doesn't mean you leave it as it is on the shelf. Shrink wrapped and everything. I've seen it. You go to people's houses and yes, we have Bhagavad Gita right here, and it's still shrink wrapped. They haven't even opened it yet. Who's going to derive benefit from just looking at it? So the first, there are 3 austerities, according to Ramanujacharya and others. The first austerity, you have to take the trouble to actually gain that knowledge, which is a hassle. You have to study. That's why the brahmacharis put aside their full time for that purpose. Householders have hardly any time, or no priority maybe is a better way to put it. But after you gain that knowledge, then what comes next? Who can tell me? You've heard something, it's registered. You know what the Kashmir Shaivas call this? Pratyabhijna. What does that mean? Pratyabhijna. You recognize, yes, this is true, this is valuable, I have to bookmark this. So once you've actually recognized and appreciated something that you've heard, say from Bhagavad Gita as it is, then what do you have to do about it? Anybody? Loud, because I can't hear. You have to apply it. If Krishna says, Manmana bhavamad bhaktu madhyachi man namaskuru, twice, which he does, the key verses of Bhagavad Gita are the ones that are mentioned at least twice. That's one of them. And Prabhupada always emphasizes, only 4 things Krishna's asking us to do. Think about me, be my devotee, worship me, bow down to me. So, you have to do something about it. You have to make a decision. It forces a decision when you hear. That's why people don't hear. They're afraid that, I might hear something I don't want to follow. I was speaking to someone just today on the telephone. And he said, he was having some personal problem. I said, you really have to speak to your guru about it. And he said, yeah, well, that's the problem, because once you reveal your mind to the guru and he gives you an instruction, then you got to surrender to it. So that's why we cultivate humility through chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. When the spiritual master's mercy in the form of an instruction enters your heart, that the field of your heart has to be fertile enough that seed will sprout. So that's the secondary austerity of knowledge. You have to actually apply it. You have to follow it. And it doesn't stop there. And this is why I'm bringing this up. What's the tertiary aspect to this process of acquiring knowledge, hearing properly? After you've heard it, after you've applied it in your own life, it's assumed you will realize it, yes. But then what happens? What do you have to do then? You've realized it, so should you just stay at home and die and nobody else gets this knowledge? No. Shiyajñatahal, he says. The order of Mahaprabhu is there. What is that order? Bharata bhumite hoilo manushya janma jar janma sharva koi korupal prakar. If you have taken birth in Bharabhumi, which we said, a select few only can take birth here. If that's you, understand that you have a special obligation to the world to act as an ambassador of this great wisdom and culture also. And you have to share it with the rest of the world, because people are suffering so much. Even now in India, on account of having neglected this for so many generations, and especially the last only 3 or 4 generations, I can speak from experience, I have observed. The incremental ignorance is monumental in South Asia now. That people have no idea. Even in Mathura, here in the Vrajadham, we had a Rath Yatra a few years ago in Mathura. And one boy, born in Vrindavan, born in Braj at least, he said, well, now, what is Bhagavad Gita again? He wasn't sure. Or as Prabhupada used to say, people come and they ask you, Sita to kiska baap hai? But the fact of the matter is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expected the Indians, because Indians are sitting on top of the world right now, is it not a fact? The future definitely belongs to India. And what are you going to do with it? This is the real thing. Tamal Krishna Goswami, Prabhupada wrote to him and said, Krishna can give you the whole world, but what are you going to do with it? Are you going to cheat them? You're going to find a way to steal gold or whatever else that, nefarious, or in America, international Telugu, but same idea. Or here in India it stands for Indriya Tripti. But and he told me that in our company we have a policy that in our offices you cannot have even a picture of Krishna in your office cubicle. Supposedly secular, modern, I don't know what they're thinking, but they're not thinking very progressively. Because when I was in Seattle, Microsoft, the devotees there, they used to go to work wearing their dhoti, wearing their tilak. Nobody cares. You get your job done, it's done. We're happy. They respect that. Only in India you're not allowed to do this. Only in India, mainly in India, I would say. and elsewhere, wherever they're Indians, they just anything against their culture. So brainwashed are they, and they've had this drilled into them for over 1,000 years. I guess it's not surprising. Frankly, I think it's not necessarily a new anartha, because if you look at the history, Indians have always been conscious imitators of the status culture of the day, no matter where it came from. Even back in the days of the Shakas, they were following that. You have only to go to your local art museum to find that out, because there you'll find it. What did they call it? Greco-Indian sculptures from, say, Swat Valley and other places. Afghanistan used to be a Buddhist place, but the art, the statues and the art looks exactly like coming from Greece. Not a new thing, but the point is that India, traditional Indian civilization, has a spiritual depth that other places do not have. Maybe not depth, but the science is there in the form of our Shastras. As I said earlier, we have only to open them up, assimilate what they say, apply them in our own lives, share them with the world. That is what you were born for here. And even if you don't recognize that, now you have heard the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Srila Prabhupada did this. We should follow in his footsteps, all of us, not just his disciples, because we're all his disciples, directly or indirectly. It doesn't make much difference. So this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is concluding in his song at the very end. The realization of this humility that he speaks of, and the benefit of the chanting that he's praying, that he developed a taste for, is to embrace this order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and do good for the world, so that others have a similar chance. All right, I don't know what time it is. Yeah. Oh, so late. Sorry, I went way over time. I'm supposed to talk it until 8:15, so I'm sorry, but thank you all for sitting and listening patiently. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Do we have any time for questions? Would you like that? One or two questions. If anyone has a question, you please raise your hand very clearly and high so that I can see. And you may have to shout also, because I'm not able to hear so well. That's what happens when you're over 50. All your senses and your body start rotting, and you're still inside of it. That's what they call old age. Okay? No questions? One here. Yes, sir.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for the wonderful talk. Since you sang this bhajan Kabe Abe Bolo Sezi Namar, I just had a question on chanting. We read in the 10 offenses, the last offense, it is also the offense to be inattentive while chanting. But somehow that seems to be the most difficult thing to get rid of. So from your realization, anything that you could share on that?
I don't know if you're so interested in my realizations, but you can read Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Harinama Chintamani. He gives very nice realizations there. Pramada. And he tells us that inattention is really the root of all the other offenses. And really the last of these offenses is actually more scary than that, because what is the last verse, if anybody knows, from Padma Purana? If a person remains in the conception that I and mine is the whole center of his consciousness, that person is most unfortunate. How can he's considered to be an aparati. So that's really, but that's not so easy to get rid of that immediately. And it's not just a matter of contemplation or anything like that. We have to just practice. We have to just keep chanting no matter what. Tamal Krishna Goswami gave this nice instruction. Even if you've just committed every sin in the book, still you should sit down and finish your 16 rounds every single day. And if you do that alone, you will eventually become purified and you will go go back to Godhead. It is unconditionally guaranteed. So this is the thing. Do not ever stop chanting, no matter what. This is another thing that Bhakti Thakur tells us. What is that? Gai Gora Madhur Sare, Sukhe Dukhe Bhulo Nako, Baranek Harinam Korore. You may be happy, you may be depressed, you may be agitated, whatever the case is, you just chant. Every single day, you take the time, you chant your rounds. Every single time we see that someone has left Krishna consciousness, there's a correlational coefficient here, which is that they didn't chant their rounds. Therefore, they stopped following the principles also, and therefore eventually they lost interest and went away. As long as you're holding on to what Bill Mangala Thakur calls the lifeline of the holy name, you will be delivered. You just have to hold on by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So you may be pramada in a mundane sense, or you may be pramada in a divine sense, because both of them are there, right? So, the point is that we have to chant no matter what. And hote sab kuch theek ho jayega, shuddha ho jayega, or we'll go back to Godhead. Is that okay? Simple answer. Anything else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class. Prabhuji, you mentioned one thing: one cannot become humble in a grass if he is not tolerant like a tree. So how do we become more tolerant? Sometimes it happens in some associations. Someone may say that whatever has happened with you is like injustice with you, and you should fight. And then among the devotees only the fight happens. So how should we avoid all these things and become more tolerant?
It takes intelligence, it takes discrimination. Discrimination is sometimes considered to be a bad word, but if you think about it, and you should think about it, discrimination is actually the key word of Madhyama Adhikar. If you want to progress from being a Kanishta to being an Uttama Adhikari, you have to negotiate the Madhyama Adhikar. And the primary characteristic of Madhyama Adhikar, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, is that you discriminate what to do, what not to do, who to associate with, who not to associate with, how to treat people, all these things. So, how to tolerate among devotees, I think you're asking. Yes, the greatest benediction that we have is the God Brother. And the greatest difficulty that we're given is the God Brother. So, this is the point that Prabhupada always said, somehow or other, ISKCON, with all thy faults I love thee. This is the point. You have to just somehow or other find a way to tolerate and move on. And in this effort, we have to take the greatest care not to commit offenses. Because if we commit offenses, then we don't even care to chant anymore. Then we're hopeless. So, as the Bengalis say, Sharbonash. So, but they will remind us of our own anarthas. They don't seem to lose that opportunity. So, yes, you what is that song Narottam sings? Bhakti Sangevash, Janame Janame Haye Abhilash. I just want to stay with the devotees birth after birth, because he knows very well that if I'm with the devotees, then I will chant. And we have a practical experience with that, but nobody's on your case, nobody's asking how many rounds have you done, and we wander off. But as long as we're in the association of devotees, we will most likely continue to advance if we do not commit offenses. So the real thing to watch out for is offenses. I hope that's a helpful answer, is it? Okay. Anything else? If not, then it's very late. I don't want to keep you up. I'm sure you have busy schedules. Again, thank you very much. All glories to Sri Vrindavan. Hare Krishna.
So I'm very grateful to Sri Mukund Datta Prabhu for such an amazing bhajan and outstanding class. And we are actually requesting him to give us some more sangha. Prabhuji is going to come, he's scheduled to come to Juhu soon. So whenever he comes, then we can attend his Bhagavatam class, which is very interior. And we are also inviting him to abode. So we'll be very fortunate to have an association and we are such native in Canada, so please come to Devi. So let us thank him by chanting one time Hare Krishna Mantra.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Sri Vrindavan Dham ki